There is no hood like parenthood. Hi, I'm Kanika Chadda Gupta. I'm a former CNN journalist, mom of 3, including twins, and host of That's Total Mom Sense, the podcast. Now, if I had $1 every time I heard, gee, you have your hands full. On my show, I interview change makers on their life lessons, legacy, and superpower of intuition, which I call our mom sense and dad sense. I've had the privilege of working with Mom 2.0, March of Dimes, and the White House, and have had some pretty amazing parents on my show.
Hey, what's up? I'm Kelly Rowland.
Hi, this is Chelsea Clinton.
It's me, Bobby Brown. Can't wait to share my story.
That's Total Mom Sense is a production of the Evergreen Podcast Network. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube so you never miss an episode. To join my tribe, visit that'stotalmomsense.com and follow me on Instagram at Kanika Chadda Gupta. Now let's dive into today's episode. Over the past few decades, there has been a significant increase in living standards. Yet in many respects, the quality of human life has declined. Workplaces are filled with stress, dissatisfaction, and conflict. At home, couples struggle to maintain harmonious relationships. Parents find it challenging to communicate with their children who may be withdrawn or rebellious. Many people suffer from addictions, anxiety, depression, and fatigue. Antidepressants and intoxicants only offer temporary relief without addressing the root causes. Vedanta, an ancient Indian philosophy, focuses on the individual and their relationship with the world. It provides a scientific analysis of the root cause of these issues and offers a lasting solution. The human personality is made up of the physical body, governed by 2 internal faculties, the mind and the intellect. The mind consists of impulses, emotions, likes, dislikes, and feelings, while the intellect has the ability to think, reason, judge, and make decisions. Studying Vedanta helps to strengthen and develop the intellect. It also imparts higher values of life, equipping individuals with the mental fortitude needed to navigate the challenges of the world, fostering both productivity and inner peace. Today, we're going to learn more about Vedanta, specifically how we can use the power of our intellect and ground ourselves in higher values to face life's challenges with clarity and peace. I am honored to be joined by Sunanda Leelaram, fondly called Sunandaji. She is the disciple and daughter of Swami Parthasarathy. Under his guidance, she has been studying and researching Vedanta for nearly 40 years. Sunandaji's exposition of Vedanta and its application in human life has been acclaimed by organizations and audiences worldwide, including the Young Presidents Organization, Ernst & Young, and the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry. Sunandaji, it is an honor to have you on my show today.
Thank you, Kanika.
So I wanted to start with the Gayatri Mantra, because today I feel we're going to learn so much from you, and it's the buddhi that we seek in life. Om
Bhurvubhuva Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayad.
So I've always, looked up to philosophers and monks, and I feel many of us who have renounced material possessions so that they can operate at this higher frequency of life, and as Maslow's hierarchy illustrates, achieve self-actualization. But I think what's more compelling is in your personal story, you've led a normal life and are moving in the world as a part of society and not as someone who is removed and an ascetic. So tell us about your childhood to start.
Well, as a child, I had the unique opportunity to grow up in an ashram where My father was doing his study and research and writing his books. So that was a normal place for me. That was home. So living with swamis and brahmacharis, that's how I grew up. And to put it briefly, I think I had the best of both worlds. That would be a spiritual world and also the material world outside, because I was going to regular schools, university, and the rest of it, though I was living in an ashram. So I think it was a complete exposure to all aspects of life, which was a good start.
Wow. And what about, your siblings and peers during that time?
I'm the only child for my parents. As far as peers are concerned, I would be able to relate to anyone because, it's normal for a child growing up. However, I must say that there was one aspect of me that would focus on something beyond the regular interest that, youngsters have. For example, even if we are in the company of, having good fun and all that, like anybody else, a group of young people, I would wonder, this is not permanent, and then, my friends would turn around and say, oh, don't start philosophizing, please. I said, no, I'm not. I'm just asking, do you all think, does anybody think we're having a good time, everything is fine, but what's next? What's more? Is this life? Is there something more? So those questions were always there at the back of my mind, and I found that generally the others were not as inclined. So it was easy for me to turn around and find something that I could rely on, which was the atmosphere that I grew up in, and I could learn from my father.
Wow.
So it helped.
Yes. I found myself being, inundated with questions like that growing up as well. There's such an impermanence to life inherently. And, we can actually train our minds to accept and enjoy the journey rather than the destination.
And when you have an exposure to more than just observation, the one thing is to observe what's going around you, and to have the knowledge available to you, that completes the picture, because then you have the answers. You have questions, but you also have the answers. So that's where the early training perhaps was very, very useful and helped me to get onto the path and pursue this knowledge completely.
Yes. What were some of, the life lessons or home truths that you learned so early on that you rely on to this day?
Well, for one, the kind of value you place for anything in life. For example, people are nice to you. Well, that's a good thing. But you don't have to get excited about it, because a lot of people rely on others' opinions. Because typically I believe now on the social media, I'm not very savvy with all that, but I do hear a lot of stories. People are concerned about likes or the followers. Now, if you don't have the likes, you don't have the followers, it's going to affect you. So we become so dependent on others' opinion of ourselves rather than who we are. So placing the right value to things. Of course, you need, opinions of others matter, but it's not important, not as important as knowing who you are, what your worth is, and function in this world effectively. And that would be one thing that takes care of so many aspects in life. So yes, placing the right value to things. Everything has a value in life, no doubt. But to give it the right value and not be affected by the consequences.
Yes.
That was a great lesson that I probably learned early.
Wow. And what made you commit to studying Vedanta and now sharing your knowledge with the world?
I think into my teens, like I said, what was permanent in life? What is important in life? Why are we born human beings? I mean, these sort of questions were there. And fortunately, I could go back to the knowledge. My father was already writing. He had written quite a lot. So I could go into the study quite early. Maybe by 16, 17, I was already there. And I had no plans of teaching or preaching or talking to an audience or like this, no plans. But I think it was organic, the growth, As I went along, it seemed people were interested to hear, to know, and I had answers. So initially it was more curiosity, but then it became more formal. We had classes, and there was no looking back once that process started.
Yes. And now let's, skip ahead to your motherhood journey.
I believe motherhood is just a milestone in life. I mean, any individual, you have a life to live, and each one has different roles. So, as a child, you have a role to play. As a teenager, you have a role to play. And then you get into adulthood, you have a role to play. And in the course of adulthood, it could well happen that you become a parent. So that would be a different role. Now, how a person could look at it is like playing different roles at different stages of life. So all we need to do is to take on these roles and understand how best to play these roles. For which, again, when you have higher values of life, it percolates into any role that you play. So that's how I would say the role of parenthood came into existence in my life.
Yes. And, how have your children taught you?
Well, what I've learned from being with children is that each one has a unique nature. Oftentimes I find parents, they have probably unreasonable expectations from their children because they believe we are this and we believe our children should be something that we expect them to be. Yeah. Not realizing that each parent would say, my child is gifted, would like to look at their children as gifted, they're special. Well, they are special, not the way you want them to be. So what I learned from that is each one has a distinct nature. And it's like flowers blooming, Let it bloom in its own time. All you need to do is to nurture and nourish it and not lay conditions. Don't fix time, for anything to happen. So as long as you let them grow naturally, you need patience, you need understanding for that.
Yes.
So this is something you learn to accept.
Absolutely. I think parents really want just that inner peace and knowing that whatever trauma or past issues that you have to reconcile in your childhood, you can course correct and give your children all of that in this one. Is that true?
Well, that is one way of handling life. It's almost like a trial and error. But the other way we could do, which we have a choice to do, is to gain these values as early as you can. That's why we start early. In the academy where I'm speaking from, we run a course here, the 3-year residential course. The average age here is 24. So young people from all over the world come to learn what these values are all about. So you're fully prepared. You don't have to fall back on experiences. See, one way to learn is through experience. The other way to learn is through knowledge. It's something like this. You know, you don't have to put your finger into the fire to understand it hurts, it burns. By knowledge of the nature of fire, you know how to stay away from it. Otherwise, you could get hurt and then you heal and then you learn. Or you may not learn, you know. So here you are. The way to ideally go about life is to gain the knowledge and be able to communicate the same by your own life, you know, by leading, setting the example. That's how children could learn from you better.
Yes, I love that. Everything stems back to the mind. And, you know, even a word like disease, you can break it up and see that it's dis-ease. And so even disease and illness goes back to the mind. And, you know, now in this day and age, everybody is talking about mental health, and it's become this buzzword and topic, but it's essentially our health. Everything comes back to it. Can you extrapolate more on that?
Now, Kanika, what Vedanta tells us is this. A human being is constituted of, as you had talked about earlier in the introduction, a physical body, which is your outer personality. But you have an inner personality, that's everyone, which is constituted of two aspects, two faculties. In Sanskrit, the word is manas for mind and buddhi for intellect. Now, as human beings, we have this unique faculty, the buddhi, intellect. No other creature has it. So that sets us apart from the rest of creation. Now, what happens is every human has this capacity to think, to reason, to understand, to know, to decide, to judge. That capacity is different from the mind or manas, which is nothing but the sum total of all your feelings, your likes and dislikes, your wishes, your wants, your desires, your demands, all that put together is anybody's mind. Now, to maintain fitness, I'm talking about physical well-being, you got to have mental well-being because it translates. Let's put it this way. If your mind is always agitated, worried, anxious, stressed, it tells on your body. It takes a toll on the body. But when you learn to keep your mind calm, and that can be done only with the help of the other faculty, the intellect. Now, why I'm saying that is, to make it clear, the mind behaves like a child. In other words, your mind could ask for anything, anytime, anyhow, anywhere. It has no direction. It has no dimension. That's the nature of the mind.
Right.
But then we have the other faculty called the intellect, which works like the adult in you. Now, oftentimes what happens, most of us know right from wrong, good from bad, what ought to be done, what ought not to be done, what's good for me, what's bad for me. We know most of the time. But the problem is, even though we know what's right, we are unable to stay with what's right, do what's right, according to us. That is because the adult in us is not vigilant.
Right. The child's taking over.
Exactly. You know, you've
Yeah.
seen that movie Home Alone, right?
Yes.
Or at least you heard of it.
Yeah. My kids have seen too. We love that movie.
It was a fun ending because it was a movie. But imagine you leave a child alone at home. What would happen?
Right.
He doesn't know how to handle it. He doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
That's exactly what's happening to each one of us.
Wow.
If we let the governance of our personality to the mind, it can take you places that you don't want to be. But the problem here is we realize it after we land in a place that we don't want to be.
Exactly.
It's a consequence. It's a consequence. Now, we don't understand the consequence comes, it's an effect. If we train our intellects to govern our whole personality, it's not only physical fitness, we would be able to develop mental fitness where you're strong. You are able to take any challenge in life, face it. In life, there will be things, it could be physical ailments, it could be some challenges that you have to face mentally, but when you have a strong intellect, it would help you develop that sportsmanship and the strength to face any challenge, whether it be physical or mental.
Yes, 100%. I mean, I was just kind of taking a look at my own experience and family members who are suffering from diabetes or heart disease. And I think, there is a certain cause and effect where at one point the mind didn't have the willpower to say, these foods are counter and are unhealthy. And later down the line, I will suffer from it. And you just feed into, this shortcut or just one more, and then when cause and effect is realized, now you're really suffering. And so if you can control your mind to have these boundaries, then you can actually prevent the suffering, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's the choice a human being has. See, no
Yes.
animal has a choice.
Yes.
They have limitations, animals. But a human is blessed with choice. In other words, what we're trying to say is you are the architect of your fortune. You are the architect of your misfortune. Don't blame the stars. Don't blame God.
Yes.
Don't blame anybody. Don't blame the environment.
Right.
You make yourself, you mar yourself. But to be fair, you need to learn. You need to understand how to do it. That's where Vedanta comes in. Now, Vedanta plays a very important role in helping humans lead proper lives. When we say that, a complete life, where you're able to handle any aspect of life. But that's a technique. It has to be learned, practiced, and made perfect.
Wow. And tell us more about how we can learn and the cornerstone of, Vedanta's principles.
Now, Vedanta is actually a science. It's the science of life and living. And this was given out by our great Indian sages thousands of years ago. Now, most of the literature is in an ancient Indian language, Sanskrit, which is hardly spoken in India today.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I can only tell you from where I am coming. My father, who's also my guru, Swami Parthasarathy, he has spent his whole life studying, researching, and presenting this ancient philosophy in a way the modern mind can understand. So he has written several books, but for anyone in this world, if you take on to the basic texts, which I believe is available on Amazon, if anybody's interested, they could help themselves. The first book is The Fall of the Human Intellect. And what it tells us is, if there be any problem anybody is facing, it could be individual problems, it could be family problems, it could be societal, communal, all the way to international problems, he boils it down to one reason. And the reason is the title of the book, The Fall of the Human Intellect. So we're not pointing fingers at anyone. We're only saying, look, you can help yourself. If you develop your intellect, you would be in a position to help yourself and also perhaps help others. See what happens. The whole life is a cycle. There are good things that happen, and then it comes to a peak, and then there are other things that happen, but it'll come back. Nothing is permanent.
Yes.
There's a beautiful poem that sums it up. The title of the poem is Even This Shall Pass Away. Anything that happens, good things have happened, Great, enjoy it. Why? Because something else is waiting. Bad things are
Yes.
waiting. You have to face that. Is that going to be my life? No, certainly not. That also will pass. So we've got to learn to face the right, the wrong, the good, the bad. It
Yeah.
will all come in turns. Now, a human need not worry about it. That's the training that we're given.
Yes.
In the best of circumstances, in the worst of circumstances, you can still make a life for yourself, provided you're prepared. And the preparation is given by this great philosophy, Vedanta.
Wow. Wow. I, um, I love this. I really, really appreciate, the wisdom that you're passing on to me and to all those who are listening and watching. What are some practical ways that we can employ to manage negative emotions as they crop up and allow them to fade away?
Now, when you talk about negative emotions, everybody's got emotions, good and bad. We are a package. It's a package deal, okay? So it's the intellect that filters. Mind will feel emotions because that's the nature of the mind. You can't prevent that. But what you could prevent is the formation and expression of emotions that are self-centered. So I mentioned the book Vedanta Treatise, The Eternities, which gives us the whole philosophy, starting with what do you need to start with? What is Vedanta? Why do you need to study Vedanta? And the book goes on, written by my father. So in the book, I'm quoting something from the book, he says, look, let your family be the center, not the boundary of your concerns and affection. You understand? Let it be the center. From that must you radiate. And wherever you go, you spread that peace around you. And whatever you do would be in the interest of others. So coming back to your question about negative emotions, see, what is negative? Anything self-centered.
Yes.
What is positive? Anything that moves away from self-centeredness. So any emotion can be converted into being unselfish, and then it will cease to be negative. It becomes positive. The more and more you can accommodate.
Right, right. I think what I wanted to understand is when we're angry or frustrated or depressed, it clearly, these emotions are clearly coming from a selfish place. But how do you manage them? How do you, kind of take them head on and pass through them? That I'm not going to let this be a trigger to feel it.
Now let's take an example. Anger, for example. If you analyze anger, the root cause would be a desire. Let's say this. You like to keep your house spick and span.
Yeah.
It's a good desire, nothing wrong with that. But if you are a victim of your desire, which means your intellect doesn't come into play at all. Now you claim this is a good desire. What's wrong with it? I like my house to be spick and span. Right. Okay, you're not living alone. You have a family.
Yeah.
You have a family that would invite friends. People would come into your home. So if you are a victim of your desire, meaning the intellect is not controlling your mind, which holds the desire, now you would be angry at anybody who disturbs the cleanliness of the house. So your kids bring their friends home, you're in tension. Gosh, what are they going to do? I took so long to set the whole place up and they're going to come and ruin the whole place. You're going to be upset and that could lead to anger, and then you express it and they are upset and you're upset, everybody's upset. Why? Because you couldn't hold that desire, good desire, to keep the house clean. So
Right.
if you have an intellect, it will analyze. Yes, I'd like to keep the house clean, but I must understand I have to accommodate the interests of my children and their friends. They came into my life, and I wanted them to come into my life. So now I pay, this is the price of peace.
Yes, yes. Were you here at my home this weekend?
No, but I can sort of guess
Because
what
yeah,
could
yeah, yeah.
happen.
Yes, yes, yeah. No, this actually happened this weekend, and it was we had to go somewhere, and there was a Monopoly game and Legos and some other toys sprawled out in our play area, and it did anger me and my husband because we had this desire to be on time to where we were taking them. We had a moment where we came back down and said, this is your responsibility to clean up after yourself, and we can't go do the next thing until you do. And next time, please remember that to put away your toys after playing. But you're absolutely right. We had this desire, and because the need went unmet, we got worked up.
Another point that you may have to note with reference to children is that the nature of the mind, because their intellects are not yet fully developed, not
Yes.
yet, because it starts developing around 10, 11. It depends on a child's growth.
Yeah.
I'm talking about emotional growth, But it's natural for children to go by the mind because that's what is functioning, right?
Yeah.
And the nature of the mind is to do the opposite of what it's being told. This is the nature of the mind.
To
You can't change
challenge.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
The moment you say do this, they're not going to be doing it.
I know.
And it's not like they're wrong. That's the nature of children.
Right.
So as adults, we have to take into consideration, if you're time bound, you have to plan it. So children will be playing, there will be a mess, they will not understand time management.
Yeah.
So you need to make up for their inability to process what you're saying, rather than tell them, you got to do it, you got to do it. They may end up not doing it. It won't work. And so we need to set the example. Never show that you're upset. Never show that things get out of hand. And that doesn't happen by itself. Unless we evolve, we become better humans, we will not be able to set an example for them.
Yes.
So I'm not blaming anybody. I'm only saying, look, this is the price that we pay
Right.
to lead the way.
Yes. No, that's so true. It's like the adage, they won't do as you say. They'll follow what you do.
Correct.
What advice do you have for couples as a partnership, as a team, to truly meet each other halfway and achieve harmony?
To be honest, even in a relationship, if one person is unselfish, let the other person be what he is, what she is. It doesn't matter. It could be parent and child. It could be spouses. It could be colleagues at work, anywhere, any relationship. If one person is unselfish, leading to selflessness, there will be peace and harmony in the relationship.
Wow.
If both are unselfish, it's heaven. If both are selfish, it's hell.
Totally.
So it's important to understand the value of this attitude of giving. You're always worried, what will happen if I give? What will happen to me? Anybody who gives, truly, not giving with the hope that you're taken care, then that's not giving. That's business. That's business. I'm giving, you better give back. Okay? That's not giving. Giving is unconditional. I give, I forget about it. This is a fact. I can't change it, you can't change it. So you want to cement a relationship, give, not take.
Yes. Wow. Can you give us some sort of daily practice, leave us with a daily practice that we can do um, that allows us to come to center and hone in this power that we all have within us?
Kanika, I must confess to you that it's like you're asking me how to keep physically fit.
Yeah,
It's a fitness, it's a mental fitness that you're asking.
right.
What should you do daily? What should one do daily to be physically fit? Go to the gym, go for a jog, do
Yeah.
exercises. You cannot be physically fit unless you put in effort. And nobody is denying you physical fitness. You can help yourself. Little bit of physical exercise, little bit of strength. More physical exercise, more strength. And that's how you're going to evolve physically. So similarly, little bit of these ideas taken in daily. Don't you have a shower daily? It refreshes you. It prepares you for the day. Imagine if you don't take a shower, you feel sluggish. You don't feel good. So this is like a mental shower. And you are dealing with true values, eternal truths. They don't change with time or age. They're meant for one and all. It's universal. So if you help yourself every day, what is recommended is spend first hours in the morning, first thing in the morning. Give it half an hour, 45 minutes, whatever you can afford. Wake a little early, sleep a little early. You know, it's an investment of time.
Yeah.
You're doing so many things which may not help you. Do something that may help you. Try it out.
Yeah.
So you take in positive thoughts, facts of these truths, and you assimilate them and put them into your own life. You will find you are gaining internal strength. And with that internal strength, you develop clarity of thinking. And with
Right.
clarity of thinking, you're able to handle your life completely, fully, cheerfully, happily.
All those circumstances. Absolutely. My last question is, a mom sense moment anecdote you can share with us. And by that, I mean, it's our intuition. And we all have it. It's not just, singular to mothers. But I feel we have to really tune the radio into what our intuition is telling us to do. And you show up in this world because you're so attuned. So if you can give us one anecdote where you trusted that sixth sense.
Well, all I can say is when you talk about sixth sense, I would rather say you go by your deeper understanding. See, a sixth sense, it is a feeling. It may be a powerful feeling, but always check the feeling with the help of your intellect. Make sure, however powerful a feeling may be, it still needs to be checked by the intellect. But once you have an intellect that is filtering the feeling, then you're on safe ground. Otherwise, you could be taking a chance. So when it comes to children, maybe this would help. Parents should understand we don't own them. Children are entrusted to us. You are a trustee, not an owner. So how would you function when you're a trustee of something? You know you can enjoy it as long as you're there, but it doesn't belong to you.
Right.
So there's
Right.
no claiming and ownership. But at the same time, you give your best, help them to be who they want to be,
Yeah.
not what you want them to be, however right you may be. So you want to build a relationship with your children, let them flourish the way they want to be. You can be suggestive. But there are no do's and don'ts in a parent-child relationship. And if you try it, it won't work.
It'll backfire.
Because what happens to children is It depends on the child's personality. If a child is, aggressive, a thinking type of child, he becomes rebellious. If the child is emotional, becomes unresponsive. So these are the two extremes that could happen to children if we, with good intention, we believe we are helping them.
Yeah.
But you got to help them help themselves.
Yes. Yes.
And that comes from that attitude of trusteeship, not ownership. They belong to me, they belong to me. When I say ownership, they're my children, mine, they're mine, they come out of me. No.
Yeah.
They're gifted to you, that's it. It's a gift.
Yes.
Take care of the gift because someday it needs to go somewhere. That's
Exactly.
all. It's with you for a while. That's
right.
all. Make best use of that. That attitude, that helps.
Yes, I love it. And even that's coming from a selfless place.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for joining us today. This was so illuminating, and I really appreciate your time and your wisdom. I'm so grateful to you.
Nice talking to you, Kanika. Thank you.
Namaste. Thank you.
Namaste.
As Sunandaji mentioned, developing the intellect through Vedanta wisdom is truly essential for a peaceful, productive, and fulfilling life. So, what are the next steps? Log on to vedantausa.org for more information on books, free weekly lectures via Zoom, and retreats that you can benefit from. Again, that's vedantausa.org. Thanks for listening to this episode of That's Total Mom Sense. You can listen to the audio version wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for That's Total Mom Sense. You can learn more about my guests by logging on to www.thatstotalmomsense.com. Be sure to follow me on Instagram, where I'm most active on social media. My handle is @Kanika Chadda Gupta. And if you have ideas for show topics or guests you can't wait to have on the show, write to me at thatstotalmomsense@gmail.com. And lastly, please rate, review, and subscribe to That's Total Mom Sense if you haven't already. Thanks for being in my tribe.